threatening to kill Israeli patients.
Wait.
I want you to remember my face.
Okay,
so
okay.
You can understand
Gotcha.
That you will
I have a question though.
Death.
All right, for sure.
Let's go live to Alex Ryvchin. He's the co-CEO of the Executive Council of Australian Jury.
And particularly coming from our medical professionals who we look to for care and support was a ghastly thing to see, and it should never have happened. I have today been in touch with the Federal Health Minister, Mark Butler, who has made public comments this morning completely condemning as unacceptable what has occurred this morning. He has spoken with his counterpart at the state level and understand that an investigation was promptly carried out, the individuals were identified and have been stood down. This is a warning sign once again to all Australians about the evil that exists in our midst, the need to understand this ideology and to confront it, and the harm that it does to all Australians. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions.
Alex, will this make Jewish people feel unsafe at hospitals or make them scared to go to hospital?
It certainly would, and you know, for a long time I've heard accounts from members of the community who have been to public hospitals, who have seen medical practitioners wearing pins identified with the Palestinian cause, and it's made them feel unsafe. And I think we got an insight into what ideology stands behind those pins and that sort of insignia and support. So hospitals are a place where people should never feel unsafe. It's the exact contrary. People should be able to feel entirely comfortable, like they'll be treated based on their condition and their humanity, and not to be dehumanized in the way that we saw in that video. So it's important that these places remain free from any political or ideological influence, that they're places of care and nothing but that.
How concerning is it that it's sort of gone to this level?
Alex, could you look down here when you're answering?
Sure. It always seems to take an extreme incident like this to bring some sort of clarity and action. But for a long time now, for months, I've been hearing from members of the community, from medical practitioners in the community who have been warning about extreme content posted by other doctors and nurses online, about extreme content in social media chats. This is clearly the first time it's gone to such a public, brazen level. But I think we'd be kidding ourselves if we thought that these were isolated individuals. I think that this is merely the tip of the iceberg.
Do you see this as the next escalation?
I view it as an insight into why we have the escalation. I view it as an insight into the ideology that leads people to burn, to attack, to vilify, to harass, to threaten their fellow Australians because they're of the Jewish faith. So we've seen this for a long time now, the spread of this ideology throughout the professions. We've seen it in the legal profession, we've seen it in the humanities, academia. This is obviously an extremely startling and troubling example because it is so brazen, it is so open, it is so public, and it is in the medical profession. But this is happening across society. Anti-Semitism has sadly taken root in Australia, and we need to expunge it root and branch.
Are you happy with the way in which the New South Wales government and the Health Minister have responded to this morning's news?
I am, both at a bureaucratic level, at a state, political and a federal level. This was dealt with quickly, with the gravity that it demanded. The federal minister was in touch with the state minister. The state minister conducted the investigation or called for the investigation. The individuals were identified quickly and stood down to protect the people of this state. So I'm satisfied with the way it's been handled.
And would you say your feeling is the same for the way in which they have responded to these incidents overall?
No, certainly not. I think when there have been complaints about incidents of vilification, of harassment, whether on university campuses, in the professions or elsewhere, they tend to be dealt with very slowly. Often there's a failure to understand anti-Semitism, understand the ideology behind it and the harm that it causes. But if anything good comes from this, and we always must look for hope in an instance of such hatred, hopefully this leads to an awakening and understanding of the ideology of anti-Semitism and a renewed devotion to fighting it and exterminating it from our society. This sort of hatred has no place here. And to have doctors and medical professions expressing themselves in this way, wishing death upon other people, it's a heinous act, and hopefully this is the end of it.
What would you like to see done differently, or what would you do differently if presented that opportunity?
I would like government departments, I would like institutions to gain a deeper understanding of what anti-Semitism is and what it looks like, in terms of the myths and the conspiracy theories through which it's presented, the absolute mania and consumptive hatred through which it's expressed. And only by understanding it can we recognize it and actually deal with it. And I think we've been too slow in understanding the underlying ideology behind violent anti-Semitism. And it's taken incidents like this and attacks on people's homes and burning synagogues for people to finally come to their senses.
Anti-Semitism and the attacks have been in the news quite regularly the past few months.
Yeah.
Would you say that the general public, the Joe Blog, still doesn't quite understand why these attacks are happening, or perhaps the meaning behind them? Or
I think that's probably a valid observation. I think most people are still baffled. Those that have contact with the Jewish community in this country know that we're loyal, peace-loving people, and they probably have no idea why we're being attacked and vilified in this way. But that's where anti-Semitism needs to be understood. Anti-Semitism is an ancient hatred which has a way of manipulating society. It takes individuals with powerful platforms, increasingly online, to turn the public, to tell them that all the ills of society, all the problems in their own lives are the fault of the Jew. That's what's been happening for a long time now. And it's always done opportunistically. And the war in Israel and Gaza has created that opportunity for some extremely malevolent actors with deep-seated hatred for the Jewish community to spread that murderous ideology. And that's what's been allowed to transpire. We need to fight that.
And just lastly from me, what sort of answers would you like to see from this investigation this morning?
I would like answers as to what degree of vetting is occurring, what degree of monitoring of social media, of medical practitioners is taking place in this society, how they're treating reports and whether they're being treated seriously, whether they're being escalated or whether they're being bogged down in bureaucracy. Because when you have people who have this vicious, murderous ideology, particularly those providing medical services to other Australians, it's not okay for it to be bogged down in months and months of paperwork, for there to be this distrust of those making the complaints. These things need to be dealt with properly and effectively for the good of all Australians.
So you're calling for more vetting around New South Wales health staff?
I think there needs to be greater scrutiny, there needs to be greater accountability, and there need to be consequences. That's the most important thing. For 16 months now, we've seen horrible degrees of vilification, abuse, exclusion of Jewish Australians with very few consequences. And when that's allowed to transpire, the problem grows. So we need to see consequences. In this case, it seems they've been rendered very quickly and effectively, and I welcome that. But this isn't the only case. This has to be dealt with as a matter of form.
Do you think all staff at New South Wales Health should be re-evaluated?
I think that would be an unworkable exercise. But people are making complaints. People are seeing social media comments which vilify Jewish Australians, which express deep-seated hatred, which concern Jewish Australians about the treatment they'll receive in the health system. All I'm asking for is when those complaints are made, that they're treated seriously and urgently.
Would that vetting involve looking at staff's social media accounts and stuff like that?
Look, I don't expect New South Wales Health and other departments to do a proactive vetting of every member of their staff, of every person employed. But people are out there, they're seeing these things. People are posting these things publicly on social media. And when complaints are made, whether about something that happens face-to-face in a medical facility or something that's posted online, it needs to be treated seriously, it needs to be escalated, because we know, again, that these aren't idle threats. This isn't chatter or banter or political commentary. It leads to horrific crimes in our country. So it needs to be treated very seriously.
Are you worried that these people have specifically treated Jewish people in the past?
I think that's a concern, and these people very openly spoke about their desire to kill Israelis. They spoke about having done so, which I imagine is an exaggeration, but the fact that they would even voice such things and even bring these things to mind, I think it's deeply concerning. And if people feel like they've been treated poorly in the medical system, if they feel they've been denied services or received lesser services, they need to speak up and make a complaint, because we need to root this out. This inequality, this vilification, this racism, it can't be allowed to stand.
It's all good for me.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Alex Ryvchin from the Executive Council of Australian Jewry. Let's bring you up to speed on this shocking story that's emerged today. Two hospital workers from